You are now listening to Pole Hook Golf, an unfiltered golf podcast taking you inside the ropes with unfiltered stories, insights, analysis, and exclusive interviews. Hey everyone, before we dive into today's episode, a quick word from our sponsors. Swannies is here with a fresh take, premium looks from top to bottom at swannies.co. And for all our Pole Hook Golf listeners, you get an exclusive 25% off using promo code PoleHookGolf25 at checkout. Now enjoy the episode. Welcome back to Pole Hook Golf, the podcast. I'm your host, Matt Cook, and tonight I've got a very special guest, Mr. Kevin Streelman, two-time PGA champion. I mean, it doesn't get much better than this. We're in the gym because guess what? I've talked about it multiple times on this podcast that we tend to work out together.
We do.
I mean, coincidentally, it's not like I called you up and said, hey, Streels, you want to go work out? But we work out with two trainers over at PFS Systems, Ando, who's been on the podcast before.
Awesome.
And then, let's get right into it. I mean, Kevin, you are... Let's start with your journey, first of all.
Yeah.
Because you are originally from Illinois. You went to Duke. Tell me, what was that like going from, I assume you played high school golf, got recruited, ended up at Duke. Tell me a little bit about how that came about.
Yeah, I played a bunch of different sports and then got pretty good on at least a statewide and national level, kind of sophomore, and definitely by junior, senior year, and started getting some collegiate attention. And for me, being from Chicago, weather was a big deal. So could fake that I could get through some get some good grades and was able to look at some nice schools like Northwestern and Vanderbilt. But when I went to Duke and was able to see that campus basketball, loved that as a kid growing up in the Chicagoland area and the Michael Jordan era, and played some white guy decent shooter basketball when I was a kid. But the weather on top of great academics, great athletics, and we also had a little fun. It was just like a really cool, well-balanced school to be able to go to. So that was amazing. Had four years there, and then didn't want to get a real job, so thought I'd give this professional golf thing a try, and turned pro in 2001, and kind of jumped in my mom's Nissan Altima and hit the road, and basically spent about 6 years living out of that car and chasing every mini tour and state open and even international opens. Anything I could get into. And when I ran out of money, I would just go back to work. I caddied at Whisperock, where I'm now a member at, and worked at Kierland Golf Club, scrubbing clubs for $6 an hour, and just to get the free golf. I was just willing to do what it took to keep getting that opportunity. And then finally on my sixth trip to Q School, I was able to sneak through and got my tour card.
6 times to Q School. That is not easy.
No, that was, you look back and it was extremely difficult, stressful, but also just like a ton of fun. And like, as far as you look back at your life and career, like the times that make you mentally tough and the times that when you have nothing but a dream and aspirations and a hunger to achieve, there was something in me that said, keep going, and thankful I did.
Love that. I've always got to take a look when we're on like this at some of the comments that get popped up here. Looks like Run PMC, one of our regular listeners. They popped up there. They just threw in the golf logo. So they're just saying hi.
Nice.
They're saying hello. But tell me a little bit about the mini tour side of things, because I know when I played on the mini tours, I played on the Butch Harmon Vegas tour, the Pepsi tour, Gateway tour, so on and so forth. But tell me, I mean, you said when you started to run out of money and started to see that bank account dwindle, I mean, what was that pressure like? I mean, did you always kind of feel like, all right, I can just go caddy, I can go work outside services somewhere, or was that pressure really on to perform and to try, like, did you over pressure yourself, so to speak?
Early on, I would say you kind of, it's fun. You're a professional golfer. You tell people that, and it's like, but yeah, you're not really. But then, honestly, a big moment meeting Courtney and sitting down with her dad. And I was on the Hooters tour at the time, and he's like, "So you're a professional golfer, but I don't really see you on TV, and you're not really making any money." It's like, "So you're not really a professional golfer." You know, it just was like, it kind of was a kick in the butt. Like, if I want to start a life, start a family, you know, get married, like it's time for things to get real and for time to make this happen. But there were like a few moments along that way, and, you know, very, very long story short, but a big one for me was in 2004, after I had basically failed for 2.5 years at professional golf. The Western Open at that time was still at Cog Hill at Dub's Dread, where Tiger won every year, it seemed like. That was, for me, my home tournament, being from Chicago. And the week prior were the final interviews for the Duke assistant coaching job, which I went after pretty intently. It came down to me and one other guy. I ended up not getting the job. I was devastated. I was living in my parents' basement at the time in Chicago. And my dad gave me the $400 to try and Monday qualify for the Western Open, which was the next week.
Wow.
It was like still to this day one of the best putts I've ever made in my career. It was like this 18-footer I knew I needed to make to get one of those 4 spots. Make this nice left to righter, breaks like 1.5 foot. I mean, I remember the putt like yesterday, and it goes in, and all of a sudden the next day I get to go to Cog Hill, go in the locker room, my first ever PGA Tour event at my home PGA Tour event, and I'm playing in the same tournament as Tiger, Phil, Mike Weir at the time. I just won the Masters. I play a practice round with him that Tuesday, all 18 holes. He was unbelievable, so kind, and his caddy Butch has now been with Woodland forever. But I remember watching him intently and just saying, like, am I good enough? Here's the Masters champion, top 5 in the world. And while clearly his short game, his putting was like obviously next level, I was hitting it past him a little bit. I was like clipping irons and wedges nice. And I was just hanging with him. It was just very influential to me. It was very inspiring to me. And it kind of kept me along that. I was like, I think I can do this. So that was one of those moments that I kind of like, all right, it's time to stop goofing around and like really take this seriously.
Sure. I mean, that had to give you the confidence to really push forward. Now, one of the things along those lines, when did you earn your PGA Tour card?
So that was in 2007. That was after 6 years, about 5.5, 6 years on the minis. And
just roughing it.
It was crazy. Even looking back at that Q School, that was a great mini tour year for me.
Yeah.
I actually had made a couple bucks, and I'd won multiple times on the Gateway Tour out here. One on the Hooters Tour, was doing well. But then at first stage, I ended up having to birdie 3 of the last 4 holes just to get through on the number. And crazy. Looking back even, so then when you finish back in Q School, you don't necessarily get your first pick for second stage.
Yep.
And second stage was at a course out here in Phoenix that I'd won a Gateway Tour event. So that was my number one, the casino down south.
Oh gosh, Wild Horse Pass?
Wild Horse Pass.
Nice.
And so I desperately wanted to get that spot, but assumed I would not get it. I call into the tour the next Monday, and I ended up getting into Wild Horse and played great. Won second stage, get to finals, and somehow eked out a 14th place finish. And they gave out 25 cards, and year 17 is coming up.
Now, being somebody that earned your card, got yourself onto the PGA Tour from Q School, how do you feel about it now where you can't earn your tour card? You have to go to the Korn Ferry and work your way up.
You know, they looked at the stats of players who got in through Q School and those who came through the Korn Ferry. There's much higher, success rate coming off the Korn Ferry just because it's a more realistic examination, a test of what tour life is really like. So that's kind of why they went to that, more into that sort of schedule. This year they are having the Q School this week for the 5 spots, so still kind of give that dream to a few guys. But it's a moment I look back at. I still watch like YouTube videos of hugging some of my sponsors and my mom and my dad who were there, and Courtney was there. One of the greatest days of my life. It really was.
I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to Courtney for hanging by your side throughout. I mean, how early on in your career did you meet her? You said you were still playing on the mini tours at the time.
Yeah.
So she was throughout all the struggles. I mean, she was right there.
I feel fortunate to have met her when I did, but
sure.
I mean, we didn't have two nickels together, and she caddied for me. She would ride to these tournaments with me. She was getting her MBA here at Arizona State.
Okay.
And brilliant financial mind. She'd gotten a great job right when I got my tour card. She ended up, I remember saying to her, Court, I don't know if I'm going to be out here for 6 months or for 30 years, but why don't you take a leave of absence and at least come with me to these crazy tournaments I've dreamed of playing my entire life, and we'll see if we can make something of this. And, you know, all these years later, she's still been with me.
And sure enough, you did. I mean, you definitely made something of it, because you've been a very consistent player for a long stretch of time. I mean, and let me tell you, because we were out at the Shriners, you're in the practice round, and I looked down at the GC quad numbers, and you still got it, man.
Yeah.
You still hit it pretty far.
Trying. I've kind of stayed stable in my distance, I would say, over the years, which I'm thankful for and have worked hard for. But at the same time, just everybody else coming up is that much faster. But as long as I can hang at that like 170 ball speed area, I know I can play PGA Tour courses. There's definitely some where it's nice to have 180. I mean, there isn't one that isn't nice to have 180.
Valid.
But you know, it's just like doing what we do in the gym, getting there 4 or 5 times a week, trying to stay flexible, trying to stay strong, keep moving, and play a lot, talk trash a lot, have fun with my buddies here in town, and like continue to love the game. I love the work at it. I love the progression of that.
Get posted to you, but you're in there grinding away as well. I mean,
I like to keep it quiet. You know?
Got to keep it under wraps, right?
Underrated.
Now, talking about in the gym, because during the season, I feel like it can be tough in order to consistently be in the gym, but they've got now the trailer and everything, right? How often, like, is that one of the ways you just mentioned? That's a way that you've kept your game consistent. Is that something that you would say when you're out on tour on a weekly basis, that you're in there every morning, or would you say,
every day? Honestly, before and after. Trailers are amazing. They've got 2 huge double wides. One is all one's all physical workouts. It's got all the treadmills and ellipticals and bands and all the weight training you'd want to do. That's all the physio side. The other one is more medical. There's a chiro each week, and then 2 PTs. So you get a sore back, you get, you know, something pop up, you go in there, and they're there from an hour and a half before the first tee time, which sometimes like a 6:40 tee time. They're there at 5:10 in the morning, and then they're there for a good hour after play's complete. So those guys work their tails off. We love them like brothers. But I'm there basically 2 hours before I tee off. Okay. For a good half hour. Then I'll kind of go in the locker room and get the golf balls dialed up, get the shoes on, and kind of get ready to go. And then get on the range about an hour before I tee off. But then when I'm done, maybe go into the medical side and do the Normatec leg work. Now they've got ice plunges for us if we need to do a little recovery.
Gotta love that.
That's
Are you an ice bath guy?
I've been doing it a few times a week.
Okay.
I try to get 5 minutes out of that at about 43, 44 degrees. It's absolutely terrible.
Oh, it's awful.
The body feels great coming out of it. So I think it
can't feel anything.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't feel anything. The recovery seems to help. But yeah, I'm just trying to do all I can to do this as long as possible.
I love that. One of the things that you've been able to do successfully is have kids and still play on the PGA Tour at a very high level. Now, with that said, Bobby always talked about the fact that you always watch out for the guy when they have their first kid on tour. They're probably going to have a rough year. Yeah. And that's kind of the talk within the caddies, right? So tell me about when you first had your first child. What was that like in terms of just coping with and trying to figure out a routine and everything? Yeah. I mean, what was that like?
That's the hard part is the progressions of tour life. It's pretty funny. I tell the young guys out there, I speak to a lot of during the rookie orientations. The tour usually asks me to do those. I enjoy doing them, but you start out there, either you have a girlfriend or fiance or something, and it's like you're staying at these incredible hotels and you're like having these great meals late at night and stuff, and it's incredible cities, golf course, the dream that you've ever had. It's unbelievable for a few years. You get married, slow down a little bit, everything gets a little early. You have kids. All of a sudden, those meals turn into Chick-fil-A at 4:45. And then you're staying at the extended stays, and you got to get the adjoining rooms. You got to set up all the cameras for the kids so you know if they're up in the middle of the night. I mean, it's just normal being a mom and a dad as far as they got to get up at 2 and, for feeding at 2, or they got a poopy diaper or something. Like, you got to get up, and it doesn't matter if your tee time's 6:40 or if your tee time's, like, you're just being a dad. And there's arguments, there's illnesses, there's sick, there's just normal life. You're just in a hotel room. So there's times it sucks pretty bad, and there's some arguments and normal life stuff. But now my kids are now 9 and 7, almost 10 and 7. And so they don't travel as much.
Your son doesn't look anything like you, by the way.
Close.
Yeah.
Poor kid.
He's
but,
awesome.
Yeah.
So is your daughter.
So now dad's job isn't quite as cool as it used to be. And Courtney's kind of been there, done that to a degree. And so now I'm kind of back on the road by myself, and it's cool now. I'm kind of like I saw an article, they said it was like the uncle, like the older, but it's kind of like the big brother to a lot of the guys.
Yeah.
And whether it's taking them out to a meal, or if like they have a big week, I'll give them a hard time and slide the check their way, or order like a nicer bottle of wine if like they just won a tournament or something. But it's like, that's our normalcy. That's like our friendship. So there's all but each week's unique too. Sometimes we stay with great friends we've always stayed with. Sometimes you just split an Airbnb with some of the guys, and these traditions start to form. You meet Tuesday nights with this family at this restaurant at Hilton Head or something like that. It's just, each week has its own kind of theme, but it's fun. It really is.
What's your favorite week of the year in terms of the full tournament, stay, the ambiance, everything that goes on, the atmosphere?
I'd say Pebble Beach. Pebble for me.
Yeah.
I've had some great partners along the way too, but just, you feel like you and your partner that week, you're a team. You kind of do dinner together. Larry and I have had some success there. We won a few times, but then stay together, go to meals together. You go to like another one of those where you just have good friends. You stay at these cool homes and stuff. And so if the weather's decent, Pebble Beach has always been a fun one. Hartford will always be near and dear to my heart.
Okay.
I'm really close with a lot of people in that area.
The good old Travelers, folks.
Travelers Championship.
One of the 2 victories on tour.
Yeah, it was a special one.
Which we'll be talking about those in a second. I don't want to jump the gun here and get there too early, because I'm sure you've got some really fond memories along the way. But let's talk a little bit about, let's take a step back. Let's talk about some of the challenges that go on tour. Mm-hmm. So on a week in, week out basis, you talked about family life, how that was challenging. But what would you say is the most challenging aspect to being out there on the road, especially nowadays?
Yeah. It's definitely the travel.
Yeah.
I mean, now that my kids tour at a level, at an age that they recognize dad's going to be gone for 2-3 weeks, like, the tears and them gripping onto your leg as you're leaving. That's tough. That's one of the worst things of the job. But I'm super blessed and thankful that I get to do what I do, and I'm able to support them in this way, and they're able to see me strive for excellence in something that I'm passionate about and that I love to do, and I'm fortunate to do. But leaving them here when I go is the toughest part of the job, undoubtedly.
Biggest challenge, folks, having a family. So, I think
Courtney sometimes kind of like kicks me out the door. She's ready for me to go.
I can't imagine the kids, because I see it in my dog. I've got a big old golden doodle that's like 90 pounds. Yeah. He's this big old boy. But when Dad leaves, even coming over here tonight, he was getting all flustered. Yeah. And so I can only imagine once we start having kids, it's all downhill from there in terms of just the emotions that go on there. Anything else in terms of the challenges? I mean, how tough have the courses become? Because this is a great debate going on right now about the golf ball rollback. I won't talk about that yet. But in terms of the courses, you've seen them over your career just get longer and longer and longer. I mean, are there certain courses that you're just like, man, it's too damn long?
I'd say there's one or two.
Okay.
There's really not. It's funny, athletically, I refuse to like show up somewhere and be like, I've got no chance there. Like, just even if I believe that, like I don't.
The Kevin Kisner?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, he's legitimately said that.
Yeah. And I get what he's saying. Like the first one that jumps out of me is Houston, just because it can be 8,000 yards long and it's wet and it's like getting 5 woods into a lot of these par 4s and it. But I haven't played well there. But there's been courses I didn't think I could play well at that I've played very well at too. Like you never know when your putter's going to get hot.
True.
You never know when just like your short game clicks or you're driving it perfect and it's just like easy because you're in the fairway all day. So I refuse to go to a tournament like with that notion.
I'd have to say that's the proper mindset. Going in and saying, no, I've got a shot to win.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of get a kick out of hitting maybe my mid-irons inside of Bombers' short irons or watching them hit wedges with like way too much spin, way too in the air. I'm like, what's this kid doing? Like, you don't know how to flight a little chip wedge or something. But anyway, that in my mind, that's like the mind games I play with myself to say I'm good at. It's just like, are you good enough to be out there? If you know you're good enough to be out there, then you're competing to win championships. And so that's the mindset you have to have. As soon as you start thinking, I have a deficiency that is preventing me from being successful, then you shouldn't even tee it up that week.
Love that. Absolutely. No, and that's the mindset to where it's like you're not worried about making a cut. You're trying to win a golf tournament, which I tend to hear from guys that some of the most stressful times is come to that Friday that they feel like they've won a championship when they make a cut. I'm like, well, wait a second. Yeah. Reel it back for a second, because realistically, you're trying to win a golf tournament. And I always grew up to where you either win or you're a loser. So I'm like, I'm not the ribbon guy, where ribbons are being handed out to everybody.
Yeah.
And that's one of the interesting things about the PGA Tour, especially, is the fact that there's a cut. And if you make that cut, you make some money that week. I mean, did you ever find yourself in a position where you're like, man, a cut meant so much to you versus one of your 2 victories?
Yeah. It probably hits you a little more in bigger tournaments. Definitely the majors. The British, you just know how much money you've spent to be there, how much money you're like, gosh, I'm out $30,000 this week. Like, if I don't at least make this cut.
And if it's bad weather.
Yeah. On top of that, if you get a bad wave or something, like that can be a little more straining or emotional. But, I've always tried to be very consistent on knowing the first putt of Thursday is worth the same as the last one Sunday as far as like your score.
Sure. So
it kind of frees you up to either be great or bad, knowing that you're just doing your best with what you have in front of you. These ideas that like I have to par here to make a cut or I have to birdie to win a turn, like it's to me, it's still just one shot at a time and like doing the best you can with what's in front of you, because you can't get to shot 3 when you're on 1, and you can't get to a paycheck until you tap in. Like it's insignificant.
Sure.
It's like your mindset, your routine, the shot you're intending to hit, and then your execution. That's it. There's nothing else you can do. Hit a solid shot, hit a solid putt, like whether it goes in or not. It could be a footprint, it could be a wind gust. Like, it's out of your control. Like, you got to control what you can control and be great at that, and then those things all take care of themselves.
Gosh, that sounds so much like my mental coach.
He's a smart guy.
Yeah, he's like. Now a quick word from our sponsor. Swannies is here with a fresh take. Performance-based materials are a given these days. But if you're looking for the stretchiest and most lightweight pieces that deliver a look that says, I'm here for a good time, take a walk on the Swannies side. With fabric sourced from recycled plastics and designs sourced from our very own weekend warriors, Swannies is looking out for both our planet and those that need a little style to boost their drive another 15 yards. Premium looks from top to bottom at swannies.co.
Like, no,
Keep listening to him.
one of the mottos that he has, or mantras for me, is that no shot is any more important than the next.
Oh, never.
And it's refreshing to hear from somebody like yourself that it's all about the execution. It's all about you're hitting one shot at a time. You hear that often, right? I mean, one shot at a time. Watch out for the technical difficulties there. Yeah, you never know. I mean, you get these stands. They're not exactly the most stable sometimes. So hopefully that's going to stay. I have no idea. But we're going to find out, and it's going to be interesting if it does stay or not. Looks like we got quite a few on here. We got about a couple hundred viewers right now, Streel. So
thanks, guys.
You brought the attention. I absolutely love that. But also, now let's get into the tournaments that you've won and what that experience was like. So you got the first one at the 2013 Tampa Bay Open and at Innisbrook.
Yeah.
That is not an easy golf course.
Sweet course. You know, that was obviously a special week having your first win, but it was, to me, I take it back to Puerto Rico the year before.
Okay.
And I was playing just some of the best golf of my life. I had a 3-shot lead going into Sunday. Absolutely played not to lose and shot a 73 and gave the tournament away. Like, absolutely gave the tournament away.
Oh, you hate to see it.
I was just so infuriated with myself because I was like, I am just playing really good golf right now. All I need to do is keep doing what I've been doing, but I was kind of like pushing the wedge shots an extra 5-10 feet to the middle of the green and then just lagging the putts short. And all of a sudden it was over and I got lapped. And I was like, gosh, dang it, I gave that away. And so the next year at Tampa, I had a 1-shot lead going into Sunday. I stacked field behind there, like 20 guys within 4 shots. And I think I watched Golf Central and like not one person on the panel thought I had a chance to win. Like not a single person.
It's true. I mean, we were watching, I had Ando put it up on the TV the one day.
Yeah.
And we were all sitting there watching it, and man, it's you were locked in, man. I mean, there were some shots like of the video camera just locking into your eyes, and you were just locked in.
Yeah, I was pissed. But I was in the mindset of saying, I don't care if I shoot 64 or 84 today, but I'm going to go out and play to win this golf tournament. And it just was the complete opposite guy from Puerto Rico. And I went out the first hole, birdied it, par, birdie, ended up being a 4-under, 4-birdie, bogey-free 67 and won by 2. And the only thing that was different was my mindset. I was playing the same golf I was in Puerto Rico the year before, and it just was like, I was having so much fun in the moment. I wanted to continue to play golf. It's true. Like I was just enjoying the moment, enjoying the process, and just like the routines were easy. The reads were, I believed in myself, and they're quick, and just let it go. And all of a sudden the tournament was over and I had won by 2. Wow. That was a cool moment of just like letting the training come out, letting like the work, the hours, the grind, it came out, but it came out easy because it was fun, and I was just trusting my routine, and I was just trusting the moment and the presence. And the good golf was easy.
Would you say that in Puerto Rico, you were a little bit nervous about winning, and that's where that hitting some putts short or lagging them up to the hole, so to speak, rather than trying to make them, really kind of gave you that experience that you needed in order to say, I'm not doing that today?
Yeah. And I had learned that lesson before, but at each level of competition, things can change if you're not careful. And so I tell like young players, young competitors, to make your practice as nerve-wracking as possible, to make it as intentional as possible, so that when you're in a pressure-packed situation, it's not uncomfortable because you've done it before. Because if you make a 4-footer on a practice green, you can be that same person if you have a 4-footer to win Augusta. Like, you really can.
Yeah.
If you can train yourself to be that guy or that gal, like, you can train it, and you can believe yourself to be that person. And so many times we fail stepping up, and you kind of go up and down to get to that position. But the more times you can get there, the easier it is. And for me, that I always look back to that Puerto Rico moment as like, I was very thankful for that. I was very thankful. I just didn't want to be that guy. I didn't want to look back on my career and be like, you didn't go for it, dude. Like, hit the frickin' putt past the hole.
Yeah.
You're putting great. Like, we've all been, like, whether we have a 8-footer to win a club championship, or like to take $10 off your buddy, or whatever it is, like, you have the mental decision to hit this putt to make it, or to hit it to not miss it, or to not 3-putt.
Yeah.
Like, that's just in there.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what your stroke looks like. Doesn't matter if your head stays still for that extra sight. It doesn't. It's your mental mindset going into that moment. And it's like, what are you going to do with it? So
it's so funny because it sounds simple, but I know exactly what you're talking about, because in those moments, you do not always go for it. And it's like, sometimes you just need to push past that little bit of fear in order to really go for it.
And the fun stuff on the other side.
Exactly. Now, going from Tampa, winning there, and then winning at the Travelers.
Oh.
I mean, first of all, what a golf course up there in Connecticut.
Yeah.
I'm a Northeast guy, so yeah, I enjoy playing golf in the Northeast. I like the tree lines. It took me a couple years when I moved out to Arizona in college to finally figure it out.
Yep.
And then from there, but I always go back and I'm like, man, it's so nice to play these tree line golf courses. Yep. But tell me about that experience.
Well, Hartford had always been one of my favorite stops. My first year there, in 2008, my rookie year, I played well and was in the final group with Stuart Sink and watched him win there.
Okay.
So that was just a good learning experience as a rookie on tour. So I had a few top 10s there. Love the golf course. It reminded me of Chicago golf style, the bent fairways, bent greens, just fast, and streams and lakes around the golf. It's just an awesome golf course. And so 14, I mean, it could make a very long story middle short, but it was like, it was a tough stretch. The early midsummer of that, we had Sophia. We talked about the first year kiddo. Sophie was 6 months old, traveling with me, not sleeping great, colicky, wasn't playing well. I didn't like where my swing was. I missed a cut at the U.S. Open at Pinehurst by a ton. I think I missed 5 cuts in a row going into Hartford that year, and was just in a very, very difficult place. And Ben Crane spoke some words to me that week that really meant a lot. He put some scripture on my heart that, like, some gratitude, some thankfulness of where I was and where I dreamed to be, versus an entitlement that I'd had success in the past and deserve it in the future, or in the future, or in the present and in the future. And it just kind of felt like it cleansed me of a lot of just like entitlement.
Yeah.
And gosh, what happened that week was just surreal. Like, I ended up freeing myself up, make the cut by a few, have a great Saturday, shoot 64, back in like 10th, 12th place, get off to a terrible start. Easy start at Hartford. I bogey 2 and I bogey 7, and I'm 2 over, but par 8 and number 9, I've got this like double break 15-footer for birdie, and I just read a perfect, flush it right down the middle, birdie. I'm like, all right, here we go. 10, miss the green, hit a nice chip to 4 feet, make that. 11, miss the green in that short right bunker to a right pin. I'm just toast. Hit a nice bunker shot to like 15 feet, but I make that putt. So now the putter is starting to feel pretty nice. Proceed to knock out birdies at 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and then make the one on 18 to set the record.
I mean, it's one of the greatest finishes on tour. I mean, we saw some good ones this year too, but going back to that, Hartford event.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the Travelers, and to do it at the Travelers too, because that course is so fun. And you get onto that back nine stretch, and you can really get hot there, and you certainly did.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I've never birdied 7 in a row before. I haven't done it since. Like, it was, in the moment, I didn't even realize what I was doing. It kind of took me back to the mini tour days where I'm like, you need to go as low as possible, as quickly as possible. So I just saw my name starting to go up in the leaderboard. I was like, just short of the lead. Okay, I'm tied with the lead. Now I've got the lead, but they still have a few holes to go. So you just got to keep pushing. And honestly, I was like loose and having fun and just enjoying the moment. It was another one of those moments where it just was like, golf was just beautiful to me. And I was very present. And I wasn't reading putts that intently. I just knew where they were going. And I wasn't hardly aiming the putter. I was just rolling it there. And it was going to go in. Like, it was just simple. But I think there was a beauty in I was completely trusting the training I had done. I had completely was just enjoying playing a game I love.
Would you call that you were locked into the zone?
100%.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Isn't it nice when you get into the zone? It's kind of undescribable, but you're just so locked in that it's like you don't miss. It's just, and it's fun. It's peaceful.
Yeah.
It's just everything is out of your mind. You kind of just you're present. I mean, you said it best. So from what you said, you give credit to Ben Crane for having that talk with you before that victory.
Yeah, he did.
So your second victory dedicated to Ben Crane?
Yeah, Benny, I've told him many times. He knows it. He knows it.
There you go, Ben. You got an extra victory or an assist. We were watching hockey before we came on air, and that's a good assist right there.
Yep.
Now, are you going to win again?
I've been close the last few years a few times. Barbasol was, I had a good putt there to tie Trey. And then this year Minnesota was a good run too. I hope so. I don't think I'd do it if I didn't think I could compete. But most importantly, I am loving competing still, and I'm loving the work that I need to do to compete. I know the work that it takes, and I enjoy that. That's honestly the easy part for me, is getting up to work out, or it's going to do the wedge practice, or do the short game practice, or hit whatever you need to do. I probably can't hit balls for 10 hours like I used to, but definitely do for 2, 3, or 4 hours. But I love that. I love playing with my friends. I love competing and trash talking. And it's just like the beauty of the game with friends is the best to me. Today, me and my buddy were out, and it was just us two at Whisper Rock, off the car paths now, flying around, playing 9 holes in an hour. I just love it. And so
it is awesome.
Keep going.
Mean, when you can go out, first of all, and go play 9 holes in an hour, potentially get 27 in an afternoon. Especially, that's what I did the other day. I was out with some buddies, and sure enough, we got through 27 holes in about 4 hours. So that's always a blast when you can get that done and get that done quickly. So based off of last year's performances, that's why I asked you that question, because I see you in the gym. I see that you still want it, and I saw the performances last year. So it sounds like you're falling back in love with the process, which I think that's what it takes ultimately.
It is. Yeah, it does.
From somebody who's never won a PGA Tour event. So
not yet.
You never know. You never know. The game's getting back there. We're trying, man. We are trying. Now, what would you say has led to the consistent career that you've had? I mean, you mentioned a little bit earlier about the gym and everything, but is there just a process that you do follow week in and week out that you just have found keeps you locked in?
That's a great question. Statistically, I drive the ball straight. I drive it far enough, and I'm a really good iron player. I can be a streaky putter, but on the PGA Tour, if you drive it in fairways and you're a really good iron player, that's showed strokes gained approach is our most important statistic. For the last 15 years, I've been nailing that statistic pretty well on the PGA Tour. So that would be the statistical answer. That's something that was always easy to me, even as a kid, was just hitting making the right sound of compression when you hit a golf ball. But I think not being afraid of a big moment, honestly enjoying it and looking forward to it,
Sure.
is important. Not being uncomfortable in uncomfortable situations is important. Loving the work and the process. Having an incredible team and wife and family and caddy and support staff behind me is incredible. There's many pieces to that pie. You know, it cracks me up when we all see pretty swings on Instagram and stuff like that. But for people to just think that changing your, angle of your wrist only is going to affect your golf game for eternity and make you a better player. It's like there's so many pieces to this pie of elite golf.
Oh, and it's minor tweaks because you should see the chats back and forth between me and my instructor. I drive the poor guy nuts. Yeah. He hasn't even wanted to come on the podcast recently because of it. He's like, what are you about to say about me? Because, we go on it's like journal entries. I'm just like, what do you think about this? What do you think here? What do you got here? Yeah. I'm like, why do we want hand depth? Why do we want this? And we get into it. We go back and forth a lot. So there are those minor tweaks that certainly at a high level. But yeah, you're right. On Instagram, there's a lot of pretty swings, but they can't play golf.
Well, and I tell people, especially juniors that want to get great at this game, the technology is amazing. It's incredible. It's not something I had when I was a kid. I had a great coach who I'd see regularly, maybe every couple weeks. And he'd give me a checklist of 1 or 2 things to go work on, and I would go work on those 1 or 2 things. I wasn't searching in magazines for other things. I wasn't searching. We didn't have Instagram to search for other things. It was like becoming the best Kevin that I could become.
Yeah.
Where a lot of times we try and become the best golfer we can become by looking at all of these other entities of people that don't know anything about your flexibility or your tendencies or your mental issues with a right water or left water or OB or, chunks or blades or whatever it is. And you're just supposed to somehow have this pretty golf swing using the proper pressure off the ground and everything's going to make you a better golfer. Yes, that might be incremental, but I tell people you want to get really good. Know what makes you really good. Journal when you're playing great.
Yep.
Journal when you're playing crap.
Yeah.
Look at the difference. It's not rocket science, what makes you tick? What swing thoughts work for you? Because when you're 45, they're not going to be any different from when you're 25 or 15. It's the same stuff or the same people. And so I always tell people journal. I could show you notes on my phone, hundreds of them. Bay Hill 2013, awesome ball striking day. 3 things I noticed that day that worked really well. I'll go back to them and kind of pull them out. Oh yeah, that still works. Yeah, no doubt. So make the best you can. Stop searching for other people to tell you what makes you go.
Yeah. General tips have always been a nemesis for any golfer that's trying to get better. And it's weird because you can have so many different tips that somebody, it works for one person because of how they move or how they go about their golf swing. And then the very next person, it absolutely does not work. Yeah. And that's what's tough with generalized golf tips and the YouTubes of the world and Instagram people. So, Tiger talked about it, right? Did you catch that clip of Tiger talking about it to a group of people? He's like, they're like, what's your one piece of advice? He goes, stay off of effing YouTube. He's like, that's my one piece of advice. Yeah. And you got to give credit because at the end of the day, when you are journaling and creating the best you, the best invention ever is the Apple Notes app because it's just a long form journal that just has every single thing. And I track everything now because I'm like, I want to know when things start going awry. I want to know when things start getting messed up or things are going really, really well. So I'm glad we're on the same page on that.
Yeah. Got it.
Now, we already talked about your favorite week during the PGA Tour season. What about your favorite tournament during the PGA Tour season? I'm going to try to fix this mic.
Yeah, obviously the majors are special in their own right. They kind of have their different flavors. I would say Portrush to me in 19 was just epic. We went there early. I had my best buddy caddying for me. I had my best round, I think, ever in a major. We found out where Shane was Sunday night back in Dublin and partied with him that night with the claret jug. Like, it was just the most perfect 10-day trip you could have imagined. But the people of Ireland, both northern and like everyone, it meant so much to the community that I don't think a British Open had been there in 63 years or something. It just meant so much to everyone, you could tell. And then for a local Irishman to win it was pretty epic. So those were always
hammered.
special.
Did you get with him that night?
We were out
pretty solid.
We were out
Pretty
pretty late that night. Yeah.
Okay, fair.
It's a good night.
Yeah.
Long flight the next day.
So that's your favorite golf tournament.
Yeah.
Let's do a couple rapid fire questions real quick,
it.
and then we'll see what we're starting to get towards the end here. So we might dive into the. I can't really see from this far away. The screen's a little far away. I apologize, folks. This is the first time doing this in a while. So if with an in-person setup. So I just have the one comment right now, it looks like. But here, let's go through a couple quick fire questions. So favorite golf course you've ever played?
St. Andrews.
St. Andrews. Wow. Love that. Now, well, this one's ridiculous because most memorable moment of your career so far? I guess you got to pick a win, right?
Yeah, I mean, this Sunday at Hartford.
Okay. Sunday at Hartford,
Yeah.
7 birdies in a row. And then really last thing, which we just talked about how bad generalized tips are. What's your one tip for amateur golfers out there?
You know, I don't know if I read it somewhere or I thought of it. I'll just say I thought of it because it sounded pretty good. But I recommend golfers to go out like just for 9 holes and try and take one extra club on all their shots than what they think. I try and tell them to play a little more break than they read and just kind of see what happens, and to try and speed up your routine by a third to a half. Just to like see what happens for 9 holes, like free yourself up and just trust that you're going to do it for 9 holes with your friends or whatever you're doing. If you've got your perfect 8 iron, hit a smooth 7. If you read it a cup out left, play it 2 cups out left, and try and speed up your routine throughout the day and just kind of just see what happens and get back to me.
Wow.
How's that sound?
Folks, you got to get back to him on that one. You got to give that a try. Now, last thing, because we always end episodes with my favorite topic, which is the topic in the golf space, which is LIV Golf. So I got to ask you, I mean,
you're going to fill it.
yeah, can we, thank you, Bushwood, by the way, for sending us
Thank you.
a bottle for this evening. Yeah, the good old Long Ball Black label. And then, folks, I'm wearing Swannies tonight as well. So thank you, Swannies. Oh, dear, that was way too much for this. You want a little top off?
I'm okay.
Okay.
No, I appreciate it.
It's okay.
Thank you.
But as we always kind of wrap up episodes, LIV Golf is always the one. We've had segments in terms of we pick the last place players every week for LIV Golf, which Siwon Kim was an absolute cheat code. It's unbelievable. Him and Jedediah Morgan. Yes, we know, folks, it's not Jedediah. But LIV Golf, it's been just, I mean, for media, it's been unbelievable. Just the atmosphere and environment. I feel like fans are starting to get to the point to where they're a little cranky about everything. And to see this whole thing happen with John Rahm recently, I mean, what is your take in terms of just the general golf atmosphere going on right now? Do you think it's good for the game, bad for the game? I mean, what's your feel?
No, I mean, it's a reality of the game. I don't think it's good for the game. I don't think it's bad for the game. It's where we are right now, and it's something we have to deal with.
Yeah.
I think the tour at first hoped we could kind of just push through this as long as we kept Tiger and Jordan and like our solid players happy and content with where things were, that, you know, maybe they would just go away. But clearly they are not. And so you cannot mess with $1 trillion sovereign wealth fund. And if they make a target or an intention of whether it's a business entity or a corporate, you know, whatever it is, they're probably going to win with that much financial support, and obviously very intelligent people behind them as well. So they became a real threat. Now hoping to become a real partner, because I think the tour understands it can't just. I think we both say we as a PGA Tour member, but we both need things from each other, and the LIV and the PIF recognizes that they need the history, they need the relevance, they need the integrity of the PGA Tour, and the PGA Tour recognizes that they are intentional on what they want to do in men's and women's professional golf, and that they're a real player that we need to recognize and hopefully come to terms with. So that's where things seem to currently be. Throwing in additionally the private equity side of things.
Well, that's been interesting. I mean, so most recently with the investors that PGA Tour has kind of landed on with the board and everything, I found that to be a very positive sign.
Yeah.
And hopefully things still work out with PIF. I like to refer to them as PIF the Magic Dragon, because they spew just fire breathing out of their mouth with just money. Instead of fire, it's money. And really enjoy that. But when it comes to PIF and the agreement, I know you can't share any details there, but what I will ask is, over the past couple of weeks, have you heard anything that it's been moving in a positive direction? Because there's been a little bit of turbulence along the way.
And I wouldn't say I know anything more than what's pretty much been reported.
Okay.
You know, there's a lot of negotiations still to be had. I do think when the terms are set, if they're not, hopefully they are, that everyone, we'll all know what happened, and everyone will be at some sort of peace with it, that at least we know how things will go going forward, whether you agree with them or not. Clearly there are groups within our entity that aren't happy with the changes for 2024. They were passed, and certain at times that things were out of control, and hey, we understand that the top players need to be recognized and heard and appreciated for who they are and what they've done. But the tour is gonna, as far as signature events and regular events and opposite field going forward, are going to have different point structures, and I think we'll have our schedules pretty much set on where we fell in last year's FedEx Cup list. But I think we're just gonna have to see how it pans out, see what the churn rate is within the top 50 guys and then the top 125 guys, and most importantly, I want us to get back to what the fans want and what they enjoy, and being able to root for their favorite players and having their favorite players play against each other. I think that's critical to somehow come to at the end of all this, is that, making the fans and our sponsors and our charities, the communities we go into, the tour that we dreamed of playing as kids, like, to have some resemblance of that. That's extremely important to us. And I just say us as that, we tried to stay loyal to the tour, and I feel like we have, and I feel like we've done it for the right purpose. A lot of us, like, it's just been about this. It always felt like the tour each year was a fresh, clean slate, and it was like time to go in Hawaii. Like, let's stink and go. Like, it's an opportunity where we're all starting afresh, and it's like you can change your life. You can do what Scotty Scheffler did 2.5 years ago, and like, he just went and did it, and he got it. But also, you're well compensated for what you did, and you had the trophies, and you weren't guaranteed anything for the next. But now that's changed with the way modern sport is to a degree, modern collegiate sport is to a degree, and I think that's just the realities of where we are. But I hope we can cling on to some sense of the traditions of what makes the PGA Tour and professional golf great, and just gonna have to see what these terms are and what the demands are of both sides, and that whatever leadership we have can make sure we push forward to a way to ensure we push through a product that our fans support and that our sponsors are proud to represent.
I love that you said the fans, because they're the ones in all of this that I feel as though, and it's funny because I have put out their surveys, and when asked about especially the team aspect, if fans were really into the team aspect, whether or not they had a favorite LIV Golf team or if they just watched LIV Golf. And I purposely went after just LIV Golf fans. And you wouldn't believe, more than half, like literally about 70% of the people that voted in that voted just LIV Golf. They don't care about the teams.
Yeah.
So like when it comes down to the PGA Tour, having that legacy and history behind it to where, you know, gosh, I don't want to go too deep on this just because I can go down into that kind of proverbial rabbit hole when it comes to PGA Tour, LIV Golf. Where do the fans stand? But it's good to hear somebody that is coming from the PGA Tour's aspect where it's like, hey, this is about the fans. Let's get back to a place to where the fans are the ones that are important. I will say this, or I will ask this. What is your take on the specific events, those signature events, and only having those top 50 players in there? I mean, do you like that format?
No, I don't like it. I understand why we're there. I understand what the top players want to, the product they want to put out to the fans, and the belief structure is the top players playing together, guaranteed fields, and then guaranteed weekend performance. Like we've all heard our top players say, if we're all going to be there, if you buy a box for the weekend, you want to be able to see Rory or Tiger guaranteed to be there. I think our core fans understand and appreciate that you have to earn your way to be there, that you're not guaranteed to be there because you've had a great last 5 years of golf. That's my take on it. I understand the best players. Obviously, we want to take care of ourselves as much as possible. We are professionals. We're trying to take care of our families, and it's what we do. But the purity of professional golf has always been you get what you get by how you perform. I think that's what our sponsors appreciate. I think that's what our fans appreciate. And we as professionals appreciate how you can we're all 3 weeks away from turning into historical marvels, or a few bad swing thoughts away from never making a cut again in your life. That's the reality of it.
Yeah.
And I think golfers understand that and appreciate that. So that's maybe,
that was well said.
Maybe I'm idealistic, maybe I'm altruistic, but that is what I've always loved about professional golf and competitive golf. But at the same time, I'm a realist, and I understand the market and the fact that a sovereign wealth fund has come in and made unreasonable market value to individuals that doesn't have any corporate relevance in the modern world without sovereign wealth. So that skewed individuals' perceptions of their value. And so individuals brought that back to the tour saying, well, help us out for supporting you. And so that's just kind of the natural progression of what has ensued. And while I don't like it, I understand that it's reality, and we're just trying to deal with it as best we can. All that being said, I hope our fans appreciate it. And I will say the tour has always been open to change, and FedEx Cup changes from year to year. And if they look at these signature events and say, hey, that just didn't go that well, then they'll probably make changes next year. Or they might say,
fingers crossed that they don't go that well, because I don't like them. I don't like these signature events. I mean, when you're not dealing with just the top 50 players, because one of the beautiful things about the PGA Tour is how many people have a shot every single week and becoming that big story, right? I mean, look at Camilo Villegas. Look at Royan. I mean, those stories, and what kills me a lot of times, and I've said it on this podcast, I'll say it now, is that the PGA Tour's promotion of these players isn't great. And that's the one thing that I would love to see a little bit different. Because as a core fan, and as somebody that I care about the guys that are 125 to 200, you know? Yeah. It's like, those are the guys that I look at and I'm like, wow, look at what they're doing. They are out there grinding in order to make that. The guys that are at the top love that too. The consistency is great. But at the same time, it's about the whole. It's not just about the top. Yeah. That's where I stand. But anyways, let's wrap this up with one final question. This doesn't mean we don't want to go down a rabbit hole on this one. Were you shocked by Jon Rahm? Scottsdale guy here. I mean,
I had heard a lot of rumors, and I'm a member at the club where he plays, so I'd heard rumors, but I mean, I spoke with John directly before it, and he was keeping it still pretty close to his chest. So I guess I was hopeful that he wouldn't, but on an individual basis, like I'm friends with Pat and Jonesy and like Cameron Tringali is one of my close friends. Like I'm still friends with them. Like I have zero animosity. It's more just the situation,
sure,
and the intentions of the different parties that are involved. But no one likes change either. So I guess change is inevitable. You can't predict what what a country's wealth fund wants to do.
$600 million. I mean, Shohei Ohtani only got 700 over 10 years.
Yeah, a few more people watch baseball than golf.
I mean, it's kind of crazy when you think about it. But J.J. Watt said it best on the Pat McAfee show. He's like, if he doesn't accept this, I'm gonna tackle him, and take him to sign that contract. Which I get, right? I mean, everybody's got a price point. Everybody's got, and that's what is interesting. The other one that was reportedly very close to going was Tony Finau. Yeah. Are you happy about him staying?
Yeah, that was good news that he was continuing to stay.
I think it fits him a little bit better to stay on the tour.
Yeah. I just hope we're just not at this point where it's like, hopefully that they can come to some terms and some agreements where this crap can stop.
Agreed.
It's like, I don't want to hear every week, well, this guy's going or this guy's going or this, like, it just takes away from what we all want to see is just good golf.
Yeah.
Like competition.
Which leads me to the next obvious question, which is, would you prefer for them to still be able to come over and play on the tour or no?
I mean, in my first gut reaction is like you made a decision to go and to play a different tour, and what people continue to forget is they forfeited their media rights. Like that's the whole point of the whole deal.
I mean, I remember Phil talking about that in the very beginning.
Yeah. The tour, you sign with them to play under their cameras that they set up, and then you forfeit their ability to own your media rights. Like that's and the tour's entire holistic package is what gives the value to the PGA Tour, which you sell your media rights to the different broadcast companies.
Yeah,
that's how it works. When the guys went to LIV, they took back their media rights and gave them to LIV, and then they expected to just be able to like go back and forth and to have freedom from this agreement that they signed.
It's a good point.
So it's fine that you go, but just don't expect to have no repercussions for the decisions you made.
That's actually an interesting perspective because it makes a lot of sense, and it's something that hasn't really been talked about, that the media rights are a big factor within all of this.
Absolutely. The value of the PGA Tour is drastically reduced if we all own our own media rights. Clearly, Tiger Woods is astronomical.
Yeah.
But if he owned his, then the PGA Tour would have much less to sell to NBC or ESPN or Golf Channel or whatever it is to provide for the PGA Tour. And so,
folks, Kevin Streelman just cracked the code on all of this. I mean, that makes the most sense out of anything that I have heard to date. So let's wrap this up. Kevin, thank you so much, my man. I appreciate you taking the time out.
Sorry, I stuck in the gym here. I mean,
hey, this is fun. This is where we live. This is where we grind. But yeah, thank you so much. I'm just going to thank our sponsors, Bushwood Spirits, for the nice long bowl, and then also for Swannies. Remember, folks, Swannies.co. You get 25% off using promo code PoleHookGolf25 at checkout. Yes, folks, that's your entire order, not just one item. So make sure to take advantage of that promo code. Once again, it is PoleHookGolf25. And we are out here at the Streelman residence in the gym. We will see you next time.
Thank you for tuning in to Season 2 of the Pole Hook Golf Podcast. Make sure to hit subscribe and go to www.polehookgolf.com for more information.